I want to call the meeting to order. It is 6 past 7. And I will ask our esteemed secretary to call the roll.
All right. Joe,
Here.
John,
Here.
is he here?
Yeah, he's online.
Oh, okay. Angela, Greg,
Here.
Alex.
Here, online.
Alex, I think
Alex
is on
the
the
screen.
screen.
Justin.
Here.
Jen is absent. I'm here. Candace.
Here.
Julie
Yes, online.
Screen.
on the screen. Peter.
Here.
And Mary.
Yep.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
All right, we have 11 people, so that's a quorum, more than a quorum. And I will now ask if any member of the public has a comment on an agenda item. If you are on the screen, if you are doing this remotely, would you please use the raise hand feature? Otherwise, I may not find you. And I do not see any raised hands. If I am mistaken, now is your chance to unmute and shout. I hear nothing, so we'll move on. The consent agenda, there are minutes of the Board of Education meeting of November 1, 2021. Does anyone wish to take those off the consent agenda and parse them?
I have a question on them.
Once, going twice.
Greg,
Those are now adopted.
Greg,
Those are now adopted.
Greg,
Okay.
you've got to look at
I'm
your
sorry?
hands up.
Alex, please.
I have a question, clarification on the minutes. I know that we decided that the Washington primary was not going to work for solar. Did we also decide that for the Booth Free School?
You're all set, Alex. Go for it.
Okay, can you hear me now? In the minutes, we made reference to the Booth School, the Washington primary not being conducive for solar. Did we also agree that the Booth Free School was not going to go solar also?
We have not, one quick second. We have not begun talks with Booth Free. We know that that was a conversation that was going to be had. So right now, that conversation is not part and parcel with Washington primary. So once that is brought to our attention, we'll address that with Roxbury.
Okay, we should remove that from the minutes then. Did you hear that?
Thanks, Alex.
Okay. That
Is there
was
anyone
my only
else? And again, please, rather than raising your hand, use the raised hand feature. That's a lot easier for me to see. Under reactions, you will see there is a, oh God, you have to go to, no, there's nothing. Oh, there it is. There is the thumb up. Okay, I don't see anyone else. Okay, what's this next item? Sue.
Okay, if I start talking?
Yes,
All right.
go for it.
Well, tonight is the final night. Sue Haverly is serving as our board secretary, and she is helping out Danielle, who I have to tell you, Danielle is a very quick learner, and we're very impressed with her. But I would be remiss if I did not bring to this board's attention Sue Haverly. I will tell you, she is the eyes and ears of everything going on. She makes certain that our agendas are right. She makes certain that everything is edited, that it is capturing exactly what we said. She even corrects Greg in a way that I can't seem to control him. So I have to say, she does a great job of making certain that we're following Robert's rules. She is the backbone of making certain that these meetings go smoothly. She takes care of all of our needs. I owe her a copious amount of Diet Coke because she will always look at me to make certain that I am cared for. But that care is not just for me. That care is for each and every one of our board members and our community. And so I needed to take this moment to recognize Sue Haverly. So Sue, thank you.
I wonder if I could add to that. I have been serving for the last 4 years as chairman of the building committee on this project that is now finally almost 100% complete. And I've got to tell you, I get a lot of compliments on the job that we've done. I get a lot of compliments on the job I have done. But to be honest, if it weren't for Sue Haverly, it would be a disorganized mess. She really is the star that has kept that running. I'll never forget, I was in a meeting where it was impossible to follow the many, many change orders and things that were flying all over through the meeting. And I said, gosh, I wish this were organized. I wish I could tell what was up. I wish I could tell where these things were in this stack of paper I've got that's about 3 inches thick. And the next meeting, Sue had tabbed everything in that meeting. I didn't ask her to do that. I didn't have to ask her. And we've never had to ask Sue for almost anything, and she's just done it. She has just stepped in and done it. And that kind of initiative, if you could bottle it, you should feed it to every kid in the school system. That is just amazing. And I would not be at all able to function as the chair of that committee without Sue Haverly. Sue, you are the best, period, full stop.
Thank you. I do what I do because of all of you and all our kids. I do what I do because of all of you and all of our kids.
Well, thank you, Sue. And we will have refreshments after, but we also have some students, and Sue helps them on her other part of her job is our Agri-Science. So tonight, before we have an opportunity to step and congratulate Sue for opening up her Monday nights, I would like to make certain that we introduce Mr. Lawler and Mrs. Berry and the students that were able to go to Indianapolis and FFA. And I have to tell you, these amazing group of students came back, I feel, changed, enthusiastic, but I think what the board needs to know is it was your permission. It was being willing to take the calculated risk, knowing that we trust our students enough to go to another state to represent us well and to come back and bring all the enthusiasm and learning that they have to us. So with that said, Mr. Lawler, Ms. Berry? Yes, please.
So thank you so much for that introduction, Mrs. Bennett. We do have 6 of the 8 students that we took to Indianapolis with us tonight. The other 2 could not join us because one is currently across the mall helping out with stage crew for the play going on this weekend. And our 8th is up at the barn working with Little Britches to also support our ag program. So we would like to take the moment to start off with a short little 5-minute video to give you guys some understanding of what it was like at National Convention. And then I'm going to ask the students to give one more time of their insight, as well as answer any questions you guys might have. There is no sound. Oh, I'm.
I love the trip as a whole. I think it was so much fun. I had tons of fun.
So I did just come out of the national convention.
The opening ceremonies and just all the general sessions. It was just so cool to see so many people, and that's kind of what I liked the most, is that we're just teenagers and we kind of took over like a whole city, which is really cool.
It was amazing. I loved it. I loved seeing so many blue corduroy jackets.
So the fancy cowgirl lady gave a speech, and I think she was very inspirational. She gave really great advice.
Speaker Courtney Duhon. I loved her because she said we could be fancy and a cowgirl. I have never been a cowgirl. I haven't really been raised in agriculture, so I really I connect with her and being different and stuff and feeling like we're out of place in ag.
And there was also the mayor of Indianapolis here, which was cool.
I think the most surprising thing was getting there and going into the expo halls for the first time and seeing everybody in official dress, all of the different people and the different jackets, just the sea of blue and all of the different states.
What we were trying to do there was we had the students take some video blogs at the event to share with you guys. Unfortunately, the video audio is not processing well for us right now, but luckily we do have the students. So if you guys want to give a quick recap of maybe one event, let's start with Annika and work our way down of what was your favorite thing that you experienced at the convention.
Well, I guess my favorite thing I did was go to the zoo. Even involved with the FFA. I had a great time walking around with my sister and just having the free time and the empty space to visit a zoo, because usually zoos aren't very empty like that, I guess. Okay, one of my favorite things was the concert. I didn't think it was going to be as much fun as it was. Audrey and I kind of made more fun of it than I think a lot of people would have, and we danced together, and yeah.
I really enjoyed the third general session where we got to see a closing speech from a national officer. It was just very inspirational, and I think that would be a fun thing to do.
I think all the general sessions were very interesting and inspirational, and the energy in the room was probably my favorite part.
I also loved either the concert or the third general session, just because I loved how they got all of us moving around in the beginning and all the music, and it just felt that we were all close together, even though that we were all spread out throughout the entire world basically, and I thought that was pretty cool. So.
Well, my favorite events were the general sessions and also seeing Courtney Depop. Hashtag fancy lady cowgirl, that's what she calls herself. And she was very inspirational to kids that grew up in ag, but also kids who didn't grow up in ag, because I've never grew up in ag and I want to experience agricultural in the future. And just seeing so many blue jackets and knowing that since we're such a small chapter, such a new chapter, just knowing that we're a part of something bigger is really interesting.
Awesome. Is there anything to add?
I think it was super impressive to see these kids step up to the plate. We were together with quite a few students from all over the world, and I have to say our Chapag students stood out in the fact that they were respectful and engaged in all the different activities. They attended workshops. I think they really took advantage of the entire conference.
So as a group, generally, before we take any questions you may have, we do want to say thank you one more time for your wisdom, trusting Mrs. Berry and myself to take these students to nationals. And I can say without a doubt, these students are going to be a new spark in our FFA chapter here at Chapag. And I can't wait to see what they ignite in our chapter. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Lawler, Ms. Berry, I think, and board, I need to share with you how much effort this took for them to go. I mean, they had to talk to parents about COVID restrictions, how things were going to happen, making certain that there was a plan in case somebody got sick, who would go back, how would they fly out. It was not the simple planning of a trip that we've come to know. It was so much, and it was the trust in hearing how much parents knew their children were in good hands. But I think, and again, talking afterwards and hearing you guys come back with this newfound passion, because FFA was always something that you had to do, right? Do you have a new energy for it? Where are you in this? If I was to ask our students, how do you feel about it now going to the national convention?
Yeah, I'll talk first. So I would say it definitely has given me a drive to do more, to get my American degree next year and go again to nationals. So I guess that's what I'd say. Even though I'm graduating, I can still go next year and I can still be a part of the FFA.
Anyone else?
I'll go before you go. So being a part of FFA and seeing so many Blue Jackets has really like stood out to me, and knowing that there are other agricultural kids like us that love FFA and want to be a part of the organization is really inspirational to all of us, I believe. I forgot what I was going to say, but I really enjoyed nationals. I love seeing so many people like really involved in FFA, and it made kind of us strive to like reach the national level. We want to bring Connecticut up to that level, and it was really inspiring seeing all the other states going, and we want to bring Connecticut up to the national level.
I just find it very fascinating how something so I forgot what I was gonna say. Just how we all come together and we can make such a big difference, and how it is the backbone of a lot of important things, and they build upon each other, that can make a really big difference in the world. And I find that very interesting and great to be a part of it. So, yeah.
Awesome. You guys good? Thank you.
Sorry, John, go ahead.
I'd like to know about how many Blue Jackets were at that convention.
John, we didn't quite catch that. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, I would like to, I'm just curious about how many Blue Jackets were at that convention. And we had a contingent of 8 people. Was that about average for the chapters? You know, from other states in that? Was 8 about? Is it possible to send more next year is what I'm trying to say.
We were one of the smaller chapters. Most of them had between like 15 and 20, 25 people. So we were definitely on the smaller side. And there was at the convention, it was
Remember
on
fifth
average
general session? What they announced?
like 55,000, I believe.
58.
58,000 at the third general session.
Wow.
But there's about 700,000 members, more than
730,000 members
And
plus, and
some of them were on Zoom as well, because
True.
they couldn't make it due to some, yeah.
Yep.
And we were one of the largest groups from Connecticut,
Yeah.
so I guess we showed up our representation in that way too.
How did you guys know that we were one of the few groups from Connecticut?
We saw a few groups from Connecticut there.
But there were other states that were asking us to take pictures with our jackets and coming up to us and telling us, oh my God, wait, you're Connecticut, can we get a picture? Because I guess there were so few, so not, how do I word that? So little of us there from Connecticut that it just stood out when we walked past them with our Connecticut jackets on.
It's a national tradition that the kids try to get a picture of their jacket with every other state in the country. So we challenged them to do it, and we got almost every state in the country.
Yeah, I think you guys got 42 or 43. And they ended up in a lot of other students' pictures because there were not very many chapters or students from Connecticut.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment, and I just want to thank you for going and representing Chippewa so well. And we're just so proud of you. And if I could just request, can you turn around so we can see your jackets, the Connecticut? Oh, I love it.
I like the fact that they have a hair swoop. That is part of this.
They did it in unison. That's great. Great job, girls. Thank you.
Yes, I want to thank you because you really represented us well. You represented the Board of Education. You represented the district. You represented all of us and all of your fellow students. It's fantastic. What was the state that was most surprising to you of the folks you met from all over the country?
There we go, there.
Oh, we also saw Alaska. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I found it interesting to see a lot of southern states down, well, up there, right? Up there. Over there. Like we saw Oklahoma, Texas, and I loved hearing their accents.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we did manage to get a picture of a Hawaii jacket as well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a long trip. Now, tell me something. How did you enjoy Indiana? Have you ever been to Indiana before?
No.
But I think we all loved it.
Yeah.
Like, I would go
we,
again.
yeah. We loved walking around in the city, and it was really fun.
Yeah. It was walkable, so that was nice.
Yeah.
And we would see a lot of other FFA members because it was all flooded with us. So if we saw like another blue jacket, then we could talk to them and yeah.
We were like ants.
Yeah, everything was very crowded always with blue jackets.
Well done.
Thank you.
Mary, go ahead.
I followed your trip on Facebook. I don't know who was well, I loved watching that. I loved your pictures from the zoo. That looked like a lot of fun, and I'm glad you had a good time and you learned a lot.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. Okay, so we shall move on to the building tour. And I apologize to those on the screen. Are someone gonna drag a laptop with us
I'm happy to capture it on my
on a phone?
so
Okay,
anyone who wants to stay on, I will have my phone as we go through the different areas of our Agri-Science tour. If you do want to step away from your computer, we should be back in about half hour, back into regular session, but we will leave this open for anybody who wants to remain on.
are we heading?
You need this recorded or pause it?
You can pause it.
Okay. We'll call the meeting back to order. I will unmute. And now unmuted, I will call the meeting back to order. We are on to the updates on COVID-19 and vaccinations, screen and stay option. Megan.
I'm going to also unmute myself. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with everyone just so you can see what we're talking about and what is happening. And again, we keep the same format each time in our board meeting, so that way you can make certain that you're tracking for what is happening within our schools. Right now, as you can see with some of our numbers, we have had some slight upticks, and really it's been some students who have had COVID. What we are seeing is that the spread is happening within households. So we'll see that a student who has been quarantined due to somebody else in the family who had COVID, during that quarantine, they have become positive, and that is accounting for our numbers. I have to say, I truly appreciate our families who have been working with us. We've been able to trace contact with their help, things that may have happened in the community, any events that they may have gone to. But overall, what we are seeing is that our numbers and our community's response has been favorable. Obviously, we would love to have these as zeros, but I think that it's being handled appropriately. Our staff has done a great job with this, and I remain proud of the Region 12 efforts. I do want to talk about the new practice that we have in place, which is called Screen and Stay. What this allows for our students is that students who are not vaccinated in grades K through 12 who may have been exposed to COVID, and this is the most important part, within the classroom, while masks are eligible for screen and stay. That means that if you do have somebody who is COVID positive within your house, you are not eligible for screen and stay. If you were playing on Park and Rec and were exposed to someone else who is COVID positive, you are not eligible for screen and stay. This is a controlled environment in which we know that the mask was in place and that mitigation strategies were happening. We control for social distancing. So what this allows is it allows for our families who may have had a student who is exposed to COVID not to keep a healthy child home. What we did when we've done our research and we looked last year, how many students that we had quarantined due to an exposure within the school, and of those, we did not have any spread. So what this allows our families to do is each morning, they will do a health screening survey with their students, turn it into our school nurses, and based on the health of the child, they can return to school if they are indeed healthy. They are able to return to school in the sense that they can be in the classroom, stationary with their masks on. They are not able to involve in high aerosol activities, meaning they will not be able to participate in band. They can't participate in PE class during this screen and stay period. Now, it is important to note that some districts who are participating in screen and stay have the family sign off one time that they will attest that they're going to do a health screening every day. We would rather have a form that is turned in that our families are working directly with our school nurses, that we know that they are safe to come into school each day. So we have the process that's in place. Again, it will take families about 3 minutes in the morning, but it is one where this way we know the students who are coming in are healthy, that we're checking that there is no fatigue, there's no headaches, there's no symptoms that are associated with COVID. Now I'm going to tell you, if you're in screen and stay and you even have the sniffles, we're not going to assume allergies, you're going to be out, but it is one that this is a mechanism that allows students who are healthy, who are low risk exposure, to return to school. Additionally, and as we talked about, it is only for in the classrooms. And the people who are part of Screen and Skate should still treat the quarantine as such, meaning they should not be going to their practices after school. They should not be exposing other people. This is really controlled environment in which we know we control for social distancing and masking and some of those mitigation strategies. Things that are also in play right now, the vaccination clinics are set up for children ages 5 to 11. It is very important that people who are working with New Milford Health Department, recognizing when the second dose is, when they schedule you for. I know sometimes this may be happening over the Thanksgiving holiday, so working with them to find what is the second dosing schedule, that is important. Mary Weber did share with me, as she's been volunteering at the clinics, that they are not doing the evening clinics for 12 and older in New Milford right now. Is that correct, Mary? So the Wednesday clinics have stopped. However, these clinics that New Milford is offering for our children 5 to 11 are specific for this age range because it is a different dosing amount. And so they are being very cautious, and it is just for them. They did have to expand some of the times to open up new slots and opportunities. I was contacted by one of our families today who said that actually even those slots have been filled up. So we know that there's the Griffin Hospital is also offering, they do walk-in opportunities. So if anybody needs information, we can certainly get you to access if that is what you desire. Again, right now, it is not mandated for our children to be vaccinated. I want to make certain that families know if they do want to access, where they can get this access. It's also very important that we share. We know that Bridgewater did have a community event that had an exposure. I absolutely applaud the handling of how Bridgewater sent out the communication to the entire community. People are aware that there was a potential exposure. We are going to obviously be very cautious in Burn on the And for students who may have been at that activity. But nonetheless, what has helped us and what continues to help us through this pandemic is communication. When we know what to look for, we're not accidentally misdiagnosing, we're recognizing potential risks that are involved, and we're adjusting ourselves accordingly. So that concludes my COVID-19 update, and I open the floor to any questions people may have.
John?
Yeah, Megan, I probably should have asked this months ago, but who coordinates all the different phases, the quarantines, the screen and stay, the close contacts? Is that the school nurses or the principals, the teachers? How is it all regulated and followed?
The answer to that is yes, all of those things. So what happens is that we, when we get the notification, sometimes the notification comes directly to me. Sometimes it goes to Sandy DeBella, who are the COVID liaison. So if anybody has something on the weekend, they can give us a call. But also families reach out to their school administrators or the school nurses. They notify us of the COVID exposure. At that time, we jump into action. We have all students' schedules and seating charts uploaded into PowerSchool. So what we immediately do is we figure out who's close contact, who's closest sitting around them. We've measured desks. We make certain that it's between 3 and 6 feet. We figure out where they sat in the cafeteria. We will go and review videos. We look at where their buses are. We make phone calls to figure out if they have any siblings. We have an entire protocol that we go through. We actually even do COVID drills as an administrative team to make certain it becomes a little bit of a competition. How fast can you identify all the close contacts? But to say to you, we've gotten it down to a science. I would say probably within 20 minutes, we know exactly who the students have been in contact with, who's the direct contacts within school. We've notified any families who may have been the contacts. At that point, what we do is then we have the process of taking the contact list and finding out who's vaccinated, who's not vaccinated, the level of risk that's involved. And from there, we notify the families. They know whether or not they're going to be quarantined for the 10 days, or now we'll be able to share with them if it's screen and stay, if it's a safe enough condition. So the answer to that, John, is it's a full-time job, and our administrators are doing a wonderful job. Our nurses are on top of it. Every conversation, anytime somebody has COVID, it is met with a direct conversation. I know some districts have turned to email notifications. We make certain that they have a human being to talk to, and I think that is the beauty of Region 12, is that they're not going through COVID alone. We're here to help.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of time and effort expended, definitely. Appreciate my congratulations go out to all who help in this effort.
They are amazing.
All right, I'm sorry, I've unmuted now. We'll move on to to reports and recognition. I had a couple things I wanted to talk about. I had the privilege Saturday of being here for our open house for Agri-Science. We had over 100 guests, including 57 prospective students, join the tour. And it's just really amazing to see the excitement for the program. People were really favorably impressed with our program, with our people, and with our facility. One parent shared that their child had been talking about going to the Chippewa Agri-Science program since he was in the 6th grade, and he researched our program, has been leading his parents through the process for high school. So, this is really tremendous commitment, and that I've heard from our prospective students. I talked to one parent and child, and the child has wanted to be, he's wanted to be a veterinarian since he was very young. And he's very much into birds, and that's one thing that we don't have here. And there are very few avian veterinarians in the state, and this is an area where he really is excited about this. And I made sure that they understood that this was an opportunity to bring this kind of a thing into the school. If this was an interest in this, it's something that could be done. But the point is, I was seeing people really jazzed and excited about the prospects for future study here, and I think it's just really. It's really amazing. Saw a lot of just tremendous interest. And I talked to several parents who were just blown away by what we were offering here in our program. And I think this is something we need to get off the ground. And we talked to him about, and one thing I was really impressive was Megan and Don Shells were in the mall talking to parents who spent a few minutes there. We stopped them and they talked about what this meant. And they said, you're not just coming here to go to Agri-Science. You're going to be a Spartan. And there was very much a point at which there was a sense of belonging that you could see these people were appreciating and saying, wow, this could be something. I think I could have a very successful high school experience in a school like this. And I think this is exactly what we wanted to do. Again, it was a very impressive day. And one of the most impressive things was really our kids, who were in charge of leading a lot of these tours and were in charge of talking in the various places. And they're just, someone stood up and explained that she was a freshman and she was talking about these things. And here's a person who's been here for a couple of months, and already they were operating at a very high level. And I think the teachers, there's some good teaching going on here, and I think they should be very proud of their kids. Again, it was an impressive display. Another topic, and I always look for interesting things going on out there. But one of the things we do is we educate every child, and we educate children sometimes with disabilities. And there was a very interesting thing that happened. I don't know if you've been watching what's going on in the private enterprises that are exploring space, but there was a recent situation in which we saw this show where SpaceX took 4 people led by a billionaire who paid for the flight, and they brought average, ordinary people into space. And one of the people is a teacher, or I don't know if a teacher so much as a physician's assistant kind of teacher at St. Jude's Hospital for children with cancer. And this person actually had bone cancer when she was a child, and this place really helped her recover, and she now works there. She is the first person with a prosthesis to go into space. It's never happened before, and it's breaking barriers. So recently, there's an article in the New York Times back in late October, and then it was re-updated in November. They decided to take 12 disabled people into space. Not into space, but into a parabolic flight that simulates weightlessness. They wanted to see what happened. They wanted to see how they would tolerate it. And I just want to read these couple of quick sentences about one person who is usually in a wheelchair. He's head of a company, and he was born with a rare syndrome that affects his joints and it blocked his dream of becoming an astronaut. He applied twice and was rejected twice. But on this airplane, as it did the parabolic thing, which creates weightlessness, he spun effortlessly through the air, touching nothing. Moving around, he found it was easier in the simulated zero gravity environment where he needed so few tools to help. While simulating lunar gravity on the flight, which is about 1/6 of Earth, he discovered something even more surprising. For the first time in his life, he could stand up. Now, can you imagine when we stop pigeonholing people and we start saying, you know, let's try things. Let's use our technology. Let's use our advances to see what opportunities are there for people. And there was even a person on this flight who was not sighted. They were blind, and yet they still managed to maneuver their way around the aircraft. And you look at these things and you say, why should we continue to think in the same way we thought for many eons? And I just thought this was tremendous. And it reminded me of why we're in such a great business and why we always educate every child and every student. And anyway, it was a great article. I'll have it circulated so you get a chance to read it. But once again, it made me, excited to be on the Board of Education. So with that, we'll move on to the treasurer's report. John, what do you have to tell us?
Yeah, on Tuesday, November 2nd, our band sale took place. Mellon Bank, New York was the lowest bid at 1.5% on the $6.5 million principal. The gross interest would have been $72,854. However, Mellon awarded us a premium of $53,754. So that brought the interest payment down to $19,100 on the $6.5 million ban. And that brought the rate down to 0.39%. That's an excellent rate and an excellent cost. The ban will mature on August 16th, 2022. At that time, we'll have to reevaluate the amounts we're going to be bonding or continuing to roll over the ban. That's about it. I'd like to borrow $6.5 million for $19,000.
Well, I think that's tremendous news, John. That's going to give us the ability to control finances in a really good way, and it's very, very pleasing result. Before I turn it over to Megan for her report, I wanted to, I think it's time to, I need to embarrass Candace a little bit. Candace joined our board this summer and immediately jumped into action, shared her thoughts and experiences to help guide for the decisions for the board. She's a teacher, and really it's a tremendous advantage to us to have her here. Well, she and her family are moving out of Washington, unfortunately for us. And we wish her well in the future endeavors. And I have no doubt she'll continue to take an active role in her new community and have an impact on her new students. But we really are sorry to see you go. But we wish you best.
Thank you, Greg. I'm so sad to be leaving. You know, all of my kids have been here since Reach. All three of my kids went through Reach, and our oldest is now, it's so sad to be leaving Chippewa Middle School. And Actually, I'm not going to tell her that I was here tonight because I know that she'll be sad to hear that we saw all the animals that she's going to be missing. So definitely sad to be leaving. Bittersweet moment for sure.
Well, if you do pass by this way at some point in the future, feel free to visit. We'd love to see you. And thank you again for your hard work. Okay, Megan, it's your turn. Your report looks shorter than usual here.
No, just that part of the report, yes. Well, right now on our stage, we have our drama production who is practicing for the Thugs production that is coming up this weekend, Ben? This weekend. So this is an office dramedy. And so it will be on Friday, November 19th at 7 p.m. Second show will be Saturday, November 20th at 7 p.m. and a matinee on Sunday, the 21st at 3 p.m. So general admission is $10 for our students and senior citizens. It is $5, but I don't know if you caught as you were walking by, it sounds like it is an intense play, and I know a lot of work has gone into it. And then, as always, your directorial skills just showcased wonderfully. So we're looking forward to it. So our athletics are coming to an end for the fall season. Our boys soccer season ended with a 10-5-1 record. They qualified and competed for the CIAC state tournament, where our girls record was 7-9. They also qualified for the CIAC tournament. And this was the first time both our boys and girls have qualified for the soccer CIAC tournament in a number of years. Our field hockey players had much to be proud of. They qualified for and competed in the CIAC state tournament. And our golfers held a record of 9-5, also qualifying for the tournament. But more than that, what I'm incredibly proud of our Chappaqua golf team is that they were recognized and awarded the Berkshire League Sportsmanship Award. And so when we look at how our students play, there's something about competition, but there's something more about good character. And I'm just immensely proud of that. Our cross country, our boys cross country team had a 3-5 record. And the girls cross country did a 7-1 record, both also competing at the CIAC championship meets. Our girls cross country finished second place in the Berkshire League, and Eilish Foe qualified for and competed in the CIAC Open Championship meet. So congratulations to Eilish for her all-state recognition. We do have a number of students who made the Berkshire League All-Star First Team. So Eilish Foy, Emma Perrone for cross country, Grace Crispino for field hockey, Gavin Giroux for golf, and Marissa Parachi and Lane Faison and Walker Butts for soccer. So I also want to thank Matt Parachi. We had a conversation with some of our students about bringing back things that meant a lot to them. And one of their desires this year was to bring back Rivals Night for basketball. And he did a lot of negotiating, but we will be hosting Nanawag for a night where the girls basketball team will play and then the boys basketball team will play. So make certain you mark your calendars for February 11th for our Rivals Night. We have some other traditions that are also coming back. Chappaqua is going to host its holiday bazaar coming up. This event will be open to the public. We will require masks for the event and social distancing. Booths will be both indoors and outdoors, but we are planning for having some visitors come in and bringing back some of the traditions that we recognize sometimes we had to put aside for health and safety, but we feel like we've met many mitigation strategies that will let this go off without a hitch. Elementary PTOs are planning for some winter activities as well, including wreath making, Santa breakfasts, and movie nights. And I really have to recognize all of our PTO executive committees because it is taking so much more planning, and they are working with our schools and they are figuring out what is the best way in case they do need to contact trace or anything needs to happen. So they're really going the extra mile to make certain that they're bringing joy to our schools this year. Our planetarium installation is moving forward. We're waiting for the hardware delivery, which is still anticipated at the end of this month. We've also started a relationship with SLU. This is a network of astronomers that is based right here in Washington Depot. They have 15 telescopes from around the world. And being part of this organization allows our students to do some scavenger hunting around. They will be able to actually see when a star explodes. They will be able to calculate the light years that are involved based on different information. And to know that they'll be able to access telescopes that are in Saudi Arabia, that are in Europe, and they really have placed them where there's not the light pollution that would impact. And so this, coupled with our planetarium opening, in which we can actually even present it right on the planetarium, really is opening up opportunities and enthusiasm for our students to look at the heavens and world beyond. So very excited about some of these relationships that are coming up. There is the blood drive for the National Honor Society coming up this Wednesday. So we are trying to make certain that our students are able to, also those who are eligible, to donate blood, and we recognize the shortage that is happening around us. So managing ways to do this safely. And I do want to also recognize that booth-free students had the opportunity to celebrate Barbara Henry as her last day of Select Woman for Roxbury. Barbara came into the gym full of students who were holding up signs that said, "Thank you." They were able to cheer her on and just really celebrate her leadership. But we applaud Barbara for being a friend of education. She helped create the booth-free playground, Ben's Bells murals, regular attendance at graduation and ceremonies for our students, and she will be missed, and we welcome our new selectman, Patrick Roy, to Roxbury. So new partnerships that are happening, and I know that our two selectmen, Jim Britton and Curtis Reed, are already ready to bring everyone together. So we're looking forward to that. As far as my personnel updates, we have one who's leaving. So Ken Schultz, who has been a paraprofessional for us, we wish him well in his next endeavor. So that concludes my report.
Mary.
What was the Good Sportsmanship Award for?
The Berkshire League recognizes players for how they interact during competition. So the Berkshire League Sportsmanship Award, it's based on interactions that they see. There are people, the officials that are in charge of the different competitions, make notes, they compare, they talk about the different players, exchanges that they saw, as well as spirit of competition. And that's how they recognize who's going to receive the Sportsmanship Award.
Cool.
So,
That's my favorite.
me too.
Okay. All right, let's move on to committee reports. Justin, curriculum.
We had a meeting earlier this evening. We focused on a couple of things. First, we had a presentation from Principal Shells focusing on the 9th grade academy. The main theme there was, what can be done to help students, transition from 8th to 9th grade successfully. Really just focusing on building supports for the students. Similar to that, Superintendent Bennett also gave a presentation about academic intervention, again, focusing on more of like the whole district instead of just the 8th to 9th grade transition. And Dr. DeBrito gave a brief presentation from the Institute for Learning, where she was sort of explaining some of the ways that we can improve instructional practices through there. And then finally, we ended with a brief discussion of the new Black and Latino Studies course, which will be an elective starting next year.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you very much. Joe, at Advance.
I attended the November 4th Board of Directors Zoom meeting, which is now the last meeting for the Advance Board of Directors. This year, they've canceled the December meeting. During this meeting, there was a PowerPoint presentation dealing with the individualized education program, which the state of Connecticut is now updating their program and their data system. So now at Advance, we'll have to retrain and implement some new, a new set of programs. And this will also help all the partnering districts share data as of the school year 2022. Also during this meeting, there was the proposal and approval of the 2022-2023 due budget or billing, and it went through pretty well. I don't know if everybody is aware, but our dues are based upon the students that we have, and we fall within like the mid-range category of students, which is the 500 to 1,000 students per district, which are probably halfway in the middle of that. So it's pretty reasonable per dues. And that's pretty much it. The PowerPoint was a little above me at this moment, but I'm still trying to grasp it. And that's it for now.
Thank you very much. All right, Alex, finance and operations.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I think Ben, is Ben gonna turn me on? Okay, can you hear me now? Great. Well, now that you've got me, you can hear me. I really have nothing to report. We've not had a meeting since our last board meeting. So the only thing I can comment on is I think we're going through our audit right now. So Nicole's probably pretty busy. So that's it for me.
But I'm not good about unmuting. Okay, labor negotiations. I can report that we are engaged in negotiations with the administrators, union representing our administrators, and we will hopefully have something to tell you at some point, but that's where we are. Strategic long-range planning, Julie.
Yes, we have not had a meeting since our last meeting, but of course, we're hoping that we will vote later in the meeting to proceed with our long-range planning process. That's all I've got. Did you guys hear that?
Greg, you're still muted.
I did that again, muted. Agri-Science recruitment presentation, Mr. Boucher and the Agri-Science team.
Thank you for having me. I'm just gonna.
Speaker.
All right, no problem. Let me know when you're ready, Meg.
Hold on one moment, Mike.
Okay.
Am I able to share my screen as well? Excellent. All right, Mike Boucher, Director of School Counseling. I've also assisted the last 2 years with the Agri-Science recruitment efforts, specifically targeting our ascending districts. So I'm just going to quickly give an update. I prepared a few slides. I was going to show the new promotional video, but everyone has access to this. For time's sake, I'm going to skip it, though Ben Allen has a serious talent. So I'll share my screen now. All right. So again, I'm going to skip the promo video, but it is really well done. So as you know, we have several sending districts. Bethel is our newest addition. We have Brookfield, Danbury, New Fairfield, New Milford, Newtown, Sherman. So The last 2 years, due to COVID, we've been unable to visit the schools in person. However, I feel that our kids did a phenomenal job in assisting with the recruitment this year. For each school that we present to, I work with the Agri-Science team to find students that also graduated from that middle school to come assist with the presentation, talk about their experience, and answer questions from students, which has given it a nice personalized touch over the last couple of years. To start the presentation, we introduce ourselves. We show the familiar faces of former graduates from the middle schools, and then we show them a 12-minute video similar to last year's with some new edits, discussing the program and also the 3 features, the 3-circle model, and making sure students understand specifics about each pathway. We talk about the application information and upcoming dates. It was a great place to promote the successful event that we had Saturday. There's a couple things on this slide that we created this year. The Agri-Science team specifically made a frequently asked questions document that I'm not going to click on right now, but it's here for your viewing at any time. And then I created an application information flowchart for sending districts because there's been confusion in who does what. And I just wanted to make sure it was step-by-step there for them. So if they had any questions, they had something to reference quick and they knew where to go with that. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there on Saturday, but from what I heard from sending districts and emails that flooded my email, and from those of you who were there, it was very well attended. Over 50 families, prospective students, just great. I thought, the students that were selected for the event were go-getters and kids that we wanted representing our program. And really, the best part about recruitment has been working with our Agri-Science students and hearing what they have to say about our program. Next steps this week, I'll be in contact with each sending school, each sending district, I should say, and in some districts, it's multiple schools, just to kind of get a sense of what we're looking at for applications per school. And to answer any last minute questions they may have. Our deadline isn't for another almost 2 months. So the first Friday after New Year's in January, promoting the 8th grade student parent night, which is for all 8th grade students and families, but there will be an Agri-Science component to that. And then we're also going to be making a last push with our Chippewa kids this Friday. We're going to be presenting to the 8th graders to get them jazzed up and applying for our program. That's it I have for tonight. So if there's any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much. We'll move on to the second item, which is Chippewa schedule, shifting scheduling update. Principal Shells, Mr. Croft.
I think you're good to go. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you, everyone, and thanks to the board for taking the time to hear this update. And since Mr. Croft and I spoke with you last time, there has been progress on our scheduling committee. We did impanel that committee, and it does have a nice amount of students from both the high school and the middle school, and also parents, teachers from all departments. So it's very well represented in cross sections in the school. The committee, we're lucky enough to have a dedicated group. We meet once a week, and we're probably coming up to meeting 4 or 5. So we're getting into the thick of it. We began the process by just inviting the committee to review and establish our core values and our priorities, the things that we need our schedule to serve. A lot of that flows from the blue chart on the wall right there, which states what we believe about teaching and learning and our core values, but also priorities in terms of the logistics we need to satisfy in order to make our schedule work. And the committee actually talked about that and listed items and discussed and deliberated and came up with a statement of what we believe our priorities are. and they relate to the general needs of the building. And the idea is, as we review schedules, to compare what that schedule would offer against the needs we identified to make sure that we're picking the right schedule for Chippewa. So the committee then began reviewing schedules that were curated by Mr. Boucher, Mr. Croft, and our committee chairs, Mr. Peters and Ms. Maher. We surveyed students through the advisory process to figure out where they are and what their wants are relative to the schedule. And then we had enough data to begin serious review and discussion, which still continues right now. And when I hear the group discuss, especially lately, I do hear them, I think they're drifting and gravitating towards a schedule that offers longer periods of time for instruction. The committee is also interviewing other schools who use schedules of interest to us, including but not limited to schools with similar profiles to ours. And when I hear this discussion about seeking a schedule that would probably afford longer periods, some of the things that I hear the committee talking about are a desire to create chances for greater depths of understanding among students, and to allow them to go deeper into investigations that would happen in labs and seminars and Agri-Science activities, believing that depth is better than a shallow breadth in the way we approach instruction. And I also hear them talking about student wellness and looking for a schedule that would supply a less frenetic pace and slowing down the day, creating a calmer pace so that people can focus more and be less distracted by so many changes and so many different interactions. And also talking about executive functioning and helping students build that up so that they're not juggling maybe 7 or 8 classes every single day, or juggling that much homework every night. So the committee, the process is still unfolding, and will continue more. I can envision the committee wanting to see even more schedules and different iterations of how you can build a schedule that affords longer instructional periods and also some time for flexibility. And when we've got what we think is the right recommendation, the committee will report that to the superintendent. And Mr. Croft, Mr. Croft is a very valuable member of the committee. What am I forgetting to say?
I don't think you're forgetting anything, but I will underscore another piece of feedback that we got from the students that was echoed by other members of the committee, from the general student population, that was echoed by students on the committee and faculty also, and that is a hope for time that can help students when things don't go right. You used the word flexibility, which I think, and with that word, I think you were referring to that need that students and faculty see when someone is absent, when someone doesn't do well on a test or a quiz, when someone needs additional support. And so that's another consideration that this committee is bearing in mind.
Right, that's a good point, Mr. Croft. And again, between Mr. Croft and then Mr. Boucher, who are really technical experts, in addition to all the other value they bring to the committee on scheduling, and Mr. Peters and Ms. Maher, who are master teachers, and the wonderful faculty, parents, and students on the committee, we have a really good deliberative process unfolding. And I'll keep certainly the board and the superintendent apprised of every step as we move forward. And I appreciate your time and attention tonight.
You want me to do it?
Any questions about the scheduling that's happening? And I know that this is part of the process, and we want to make certain, and we've talked about this, this is not to surprise anyone. And even as we've started off, and what we're hearing from people is that extended time that happened last year. And we know this is not about going back to the black schedule that we had left years ago. It is new. It is what we have to do in order to make certain our students are getting the time they need for labs, for exploration of concepts. And also we recognize that juggling all of the homework that can happen by the mass amount of courses each day can also be taxing. So trying to make certain we're balancing that, and they have the right team that's involved, how they're approaching it, and getting all the stakeholders. And please know, we recognize that there will be some potential budget impacts. We also recognize that negotiations with unions, but right now the exploration is really about that academic need for our students and making certain that all voices are heard. And I appreciate the time because I know it is a lot of hours, and thank you to the Chippewa administration for going through that.
Okay. Joe.
You're talking about possibly expanding classroom time, like by how much? 15 minutes, an hour, 45 minutes? I know that during COVID, there was that block of 100-minute classes. Is that the direction that you're heading towards? Is longer classroom times and maybe, I don't know, the schedule be a little bit different, with the alternating A B schedule? Does that still come into play, and will that be in effect in that?
Those are all features of the schedules that the committee seems most interested in are converging in a certain direction. And some of the things you mentioned are features of that convergence, but no one has said yet the exact amount of minutes we're talking about because we're still reviewing schedules. And I've yet to see the committee review a schedule that would be based in a 100-minute class period. A lot of the blocks that we're reviewing or hybrid blocks or other schedules that offer longer periods usually run from between 70 and 84 minutes. And there's going to be a sweet spot somewhere in there that's right for this building based upon all the things we want to get done. So am I answering your question?
Yeah, no, I just didn't know if there was like a base number you were looking for, because obviously like with some labs and things like that, you need additional time, but that's great. And there may be some classes that obviously will need more time than some that don't need that.
Sure. And
if it's a plug and play situation, or we're just going to set.
I think we're going to try to build a schedule that takes into account the developmental needs of our middle school students and also the inquiry-based needs of our high school students, and then the time for things like labs and agri-science experiments and so forth to go forward. So I'm not trying to evade the question. It's just that the committee is having an honest grassroots deliberation, and I haven't imposed numbers like that on the committee, or our team hasn't. But I can say the schedules they're reviewing, correct me if I'm wrong, seem to be between like 70 and 80-minute experiences for the high school students. And also there has to be one schedule for the whole building, but the committee is also being creative in how we might use that 70 or 80-minute slot time in the middle school to meet the needs of those students. So it's a little bit like operating a jigsaw puzzle and trying to figure out how to get the right sweet spot in the instructional time for all our clientele, and then also the right flex periods and other events built in that let us do some of the other soulful things that we want to do. So I predict that the schedule that the committee is going to recommend will have a lot of the features that you mentioned, but it's not so acutely defined yet as what you suggested.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Good luck. Keep us posted. All right, we'll move on then to the action items. The first one is to consider and, if appropriate, approve the contract for the Connecticut Center for School Change / Partners in Education Leadership for $47,500 to facilitate and develop a long-range plan for Region 12 schools. So, who wants to take the lead on this? Julie, you have anything
Sure.
to add?
Yeah, just can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Almost.
Okay. Yeah, just as a recap, and we talked about this at the last meeting, and I hope everyone had a chance to think about it a little more and digest the information. But the subcommittee has been working on this for well over a year. We had delayed it for quite some time due to Agri-Science and COVID and so forth. We did look at 3 proposals, one from the Connecticut Center for Change, one from CABE, and one from Ed Advance. And we really felt like going with the Connecticut Center for Change, which I guess is now called Partners in Education Leadership, was the one that we really felt most comfortable with. And again, this isn't the money we spend every year. I know it's a lot. I think Megan really convinced me that this was the right way to go, and I agree with her. So I hope we'll get the support of the board tonight.
John and then Alex.
Julie, I know that you mentioned that this has been on the table since last year. I see under the proposal, or let's call it the contract, the dates started last year. So I guess the year will change, but the due dates will stay the same? No.
Sorry. The timeline, that was the original proposal when it first came to us. It would adjust, but you can see essentially if we started today and that becomes the new start point, how it would push down some of the dates. So they would readjust based on when is our new start date, but I didn't want to have them reconfigure when they were still in uncertainty with our board. So they will
Okay.
put together a new timeline, but it will be the speed that you see that it's happening in the proposal.
Still a 5-year plan ending in 2027 now. It was scheduled to end in 2026, I guess, or to take us through that date.
Sorry, we're trying to navigate the speaker, so I apologize. Yeah, yes, as far as 2027, that would be part of the proposal, but I think as we look and start the planning, it's really going to determine how long this plan is going to last for. It's not about hurry up and get to a destination. It's going to be how do we want to grow our system? What are some of the changes we need to do? Making those decisions. What is the long range plan? We may come up with a 5-year, we may come up with a 10-year. So I'd say that that's really up to how the committee drives this. And, you know, some of the changes, especially if we do this right, it's not about doing this fast. It's about making certain that we're well planned out and transitioning the district where we want to see it to go.
And what about the quote? Will that still hold at 47.5?
Can you ask that question again, John? I'm sorry.
The quote was 47,500. Is that still going to?
I was gonna say, John was asking if they were gonna hold their price at the 47.5.
Yeah, yes, that's correct. So it doesn't matter as far as our planning goes. If we plan for 10 years, if we plan for 5 years, it's not going to adjust the pricing that's being asked, if I'm answering the question correctly.
No, you're not. Actually, I think what he's
sorry.
asking is, are they charging more because we waited a year to make a decision, or?
No, they are holding to the 47.5. So the duration, and that was the first thing that we checked on, is that there's no inflation in price.
John, was that your question?
Yeah, that was exactly right. Since there was a, you know, the quote was from last year, is it going to still be viable for the moving forward? But definitely, thank you.
Okay, Alex.
Yeah, tell me when, give me a thumbs up when you can hear me. Okay. I have reviewed this and I've got several questions. Let me put them all out before we try to answer them. The first question I've got, has anything radically changed in the 11 months since this proposal? That's my first question. Then a couple of comments. I noticed my biggest concern is in these references. I noticed there's a 4-year gap where they don't put anything in. They had something from 2013-14, and the next thing is they had 2017-18. raises a red flag in my book, why you're not saying what you did for 3 years. And have the references been checked? Has the 3 references they gave, have we called them and talked to them? And are there any further updates on schools they're working with? And those are my questions.
Okay, who wants to answer that?
I will answer
Megan?
that. So I can tell you absolutely, we have been in contact with people who they're working with. Alan Adley and Anna Kataya, I work directly with, and actually every month we have conversations. So I work with this network for the superintendent's network. And so I can tell you this is a frequently used organization. It is one that is held in high regard. One of the things that I am most impressed with is the long-term relationships that they have with their districts. So it's not just that the planning that's done, they're also there to support and do professional development as the rollout fashion happens, as they're making certain that the leaders are capable of handling the changes that there are. I don't have any reservations, and I can say to you that, yes, I have checked their references. I know the work that they've done. I've seen in practice. I've also watched some of the board meetings in which they've worked with the center directly. So I have confidence, but that said, my confidence alone should not be what the board relies on. So certainly want to make certain that if there's any specific questions about the interactions, I can share with you what I've heard and what they've relayed as far as the experience.
Can you still hear me?
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I guess the committee that Julie, I assume that there's other people in the committee. Is everybody feeling good? Is it sort of unanimous about this?
Well, I can say that when we talked about this over a year ago, there was a consensus. The committee has changed slightly since then. So I can't say for certain that everyone on the committee is in favor. I don't know of anyone who is against it, but we originally discussed this and came to a consensus over a year ago.
Okay. Thank you.
Unmute.
Okay, good. Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Is this a one-shot 47,500?
Correct.
The length of what it takes for them to fulfill the contract?
Correct.
The question I have for you is, because I know I'm on the committee, but I don't remember every aspect of this. There's a lot of terminology I don't understand. Maybe you can explain it.
Mm-hmm.
This is some of the terminology they use. And I consider us a very small educational system. And they use the words equity in schools, educational reform, equitable education, instructional inequities, acceleration and equity, equity, diversity, and inclusion, social justice, and equity. I've been on the board for 20 years. I never heard terminology like this in my entire life. And we are such a small school system, and we're not growing. The only thing that's growing is Ag STEM. The rest of the system isn't growing because of the attitude in the towns concerning the construction of housing and building a plan for families. None of the, Washington has made an attempt. Of the 3 towns, the only town that's made some attempt, but it's a feeble attempt. So we're not growing, period, from the inside. If any way we're growing, it's from outside, which is why we did the Ag STEM program to grow. Without that, we're standing still. But some of the terminology they use, you have to explain to me. Why do we, what's so necessary in a system our size that we would need, forget the $47,000 and a $23 million budget is bupkis. Okay, so I understand it. And it's not 47 a year. It's a one-shot deal. So it's equitable from a cost standpoint. So I'm not addressing that issue. What I'm addressing is why we really need it in a school system our size. Why can't you and the staff and all the members we have in the staff, especially administrative staff, can handle the very definitions they're putting here in all this terminology? Why can't you do that?
So to answer the question, let's start with the definitions of equity is to make certain that all educational needs, all needs of the students are met, regardless of their ability, regardless of their color, regardless of their financial status. So it does take that you have a critical eye on your curriculum to make certain that all students are being addressed and supported in our school system. I think that the reason we need somebody from outside is I would really hate to think that I know it all. I do become tone deaf to things that are happening in this district, and someone who makes you re-look at a practice that's happening. Not all of our practices are good. I think there are times in which if I was to hold a community event to get some of these survey questions that we want to know what people are thinking. How do they want to design the school? Having me present that, having me ask those questions is going to create an altered response versus somebody talking to somebody who is not a stakeholder, somebody who can have an unbiased view, who they're not going to feel bad saying, you know what, I don't think that the school is addressing this. I think in order to introduce honesty, you introduce a third person. I think when you want to take a critical look at something and not have everybody yes you, because we've got some really nice administrators who might be a little afraid of me. And so to have somebody who comes in to then say, shakes it up, look at this from a different angle. You know what, maybe we're not doing everything right, because you can get into groupthink really quickly in a small community and start just being really comfortable with the way things are.
But this doesn't say that. You look at this, it says our mission. We partner with educational leaders to reimagine teaching, learning, dismantle instructional inequities, and support systematic improvement so that all the students can flourish. I mean, it's foreign to me. Having been here for 20 years and never heard anything like this in my life, I figured the people we hire should be capable of handling all of this.
I
agree. No, they can't handle it. We have to hire outside personnel. And the
Awful lot of
money's
buzzwords
not
in that
easy, as I said, because the budget is way beyond 47,000. It's a blip. But you're the superintendent. We acknowledge that you have desires and needs and the staff, et cetera, et cetera. But when I read this, it's all foreign to me. It really is. And I can't believe that you don't have the people in our staff, administratively and educationally, that can supply us with this.
I think, you know, when we had talked about long-range planning and we had given people different sections in conversations, and it hit a point where you couldn't push any further. We were just giving reports and updates of what we're already doing. And we know we're already doing them. It's a question of, do we need to introduce something different? And what is the quality of education that we're offering? And so, yes, there's some edu-speak in that, I agree. And we want to make certain that we're not filling a plan with philosophies, but rather, what are the actions behind it? And that is what you are paying the administration for, is to make certain that as we gather this information, what are we doing with it to actually move it forward?
But the terminology sounds different than what you're talking about. Social injustice and equity. What the hell is social injustice?
Social injustice, just as we talked, when things are not, when not all learners have access to the information. So be it ability level, be it if they have a lower socioeconomic disadvantage that may prevent them from accessing all of our curriculum. If there are some issues with race, if there's issues with gender, it's making certain that we are looking at all of our students and all of their needs being met. So, yep, it's a big word to just really say, Are you addressing all students as individuals?
So you're saying it's gonna cost us 47.5, one shot, one time only, and that this firm is not gonna send us a bill every year?
No. This is a long-range plan, and our long-range
I
plan is gonna
understand.
cost us 47,500. If we want to involve this consultant for something else, that would be a different conversation, but this is about the plan.
All right, I think it's nuts, but you're the boss.
Mary?
I'm in favor of this proposal, but I just want to ask a question just in case. If we should vote not to go with this proposal, then what would happen?
So we had encumbered the funds from last year. So we do have the money set up. This is not in this year's budget. It's from last year's budget. So if we decide not to do this, money goes back to the town. As far as what would happen for our long-range planning,
Right.
we'd continue to do things internally, but I do think we'll have some blind spots to things that we could improve upon because we may not recognize our own shortcomings. I think at times when you are so far in the weeds, you're not always looking at what are the opportunities beyond. And I see Julie has her hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Julie.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, great. So just, Pete, I get what you're saying about the buzzwords, and they all use the buzzwords. And I think that's part of those of us on the committee who are not educators, to make sure that the final product is something that every person in the community can understand and relate to. And I absolutely will make sure that this is not, buzzwords, corporate speak, education speak that no one can relate to and understand. So I think that's important. The other thing is, as you may remember, we tried to sort of do this on our own, and we did hit roadblocks. We had silos. It was not easy, and it included not just committee members, board members, but also administrators, and we struggled with it. So we did give it a go for quite a few months, and we just determined we need help. And if we're going to get the help, I'd like to get it from the best group out there. And this is the best group that we could find and want to work with.
Okay.
I was gonna say, so quick trip down memory lane, and I don't know if you remember the full day back before COVID, Pete, when we were sitting down and we were looking at what did we want to do with tuition in, and we were talking about, what are our plans for college courses and Agri-Science and trying to pull it all together. And there were points in which we are still trying to get programs up and going. Now we need to see what are the future and what are the things that we need to do to improve them.
Okay, John?
Yeah, I'm asking this question for a number of community members who contacted me before last meeting and after last meeting. And their concern is and they've investigated this organization. Their concern is what part of the critical race theory will play in this overall objective.
That's a really important question, and I want to make certain that we get that cleared up right away. This is not about critical race theory. We will not be teaching critical race theory in our hallways. This is not a backdoor way of looking for how to introduce that. Quite frankly, what this is, and when we talk about equity, we talk about all students. And whenever we explore any topic, it's about how do we get access to all of our students, regardless of their backgrounds and abilities and status, that everybody has access to education. So again, this is not this organization put out a statement, and I believe it was something that was said regarding the January 6th riots. And I know that that statement was made, but it is not about a political stand that they're taking. And we are not taking up critical race theory within our curriculum.
Alex, you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, something that Pete said just struck home to me. I had my doubts about this. But I think because we are a smaller entity, we need it more. If we were a bigger entity, we'd have this person on staff. We can't afford to have this person on staff. We're too small. So when you're too small and you can't afford to have all the professionals that you need to go outside your circle. So I am now in favor of it. I had my doubts, but I think that I think it's a good, I think it's something we need. Thank you.
I just want to say that I am in favor of this, and I have to agree with Julie and Megan that I sat on that committee and we did try this, and there were roadblocks. And I think in order for us to move forward and be the school that we want to be and be one of the best schools in the state, I do think we need to look at ourselves and have somebody else look at us, because we tried that and it didn't work. And it was a long process. So I am definitely for it, and I trust Megan that she's our expert here, and I think that I do support this, and I hope the board supports it as well.
Any other questions? He says unmutedly. All right. Are we ready to vote? All right, I'm going to ask for a vote of all those in favor, and I will ask that the roll be called. Can you call the roll?
So Danielle, you're going to
Danielle.
go through, yep. You're gonna unmute yourself.
This is your great moment now.
Okay. You're gonna go through each person and ask their vote. Okay. Okay.
So I just start with somebody's name.
Start at the top.
Start off. Okay. So Joseph Abdallah,
Yes.
John Bonaiuto,
Nay.
Angela Macchiarolo, Alex McNaughton,
Yes.
Justin Ongley,
Yes.
Jennifer Pody. Is that?
She's not here.
Lisa Roush,
Yes.
Candace Scheisel,
Yes.
Julie Stewart,
Yes.
Peter Tagley,
Yes.
and Mary Weber,
Yes.
and Gregory Kava.
Aye, chairman votes aye. Yes.
Count up the yeses and noes, and
My apologies, everyone. I'm the newbie.
No, don't worry. That's the way you learn.
All right, so I have 1,
Those killing on people, I think.
2, 3, 4,
She's
5,
done
6,
yes.
7, 8,
One no.
9, yay. No,
I know, but he doesn't believe it. I don't think.
includes Gregory. So we have 10 in favor, 1 not in favor, and 1 absent.
Okay, motion passes. All right, we shall move on to the second action item, to consider and if appropriate, approve the school calendar for the 2022-23 school year.
all right, slightly less controversial, but nonetheless, I know parents always want to know as planning ahead. So the draft calendar is in your board packet. You will notice that what we're seeking to do is start school on August 24th. Currently, the state of Connecticut is still not allowing for the snow remote learning days. So we want to make certain that we give ourselves a little bit of runway in June. So The calendar that we have proposed before you is that June 9th would be the last day of school. Additionally, you'll notice that we did provide a longer April break. I've talked to my colleagues from our sending towns and looking to have the Good Friday go right into that long week for April vacation. And the other thing that we did is that in our conversations with the teachers union, that week of parent-teacher conferences can be very disruptive. So looking to put parent-teacher conferences a little bit later in the school calendar. So it would be, if you look at the week of November 7th, you would have a half day on November 7th. The election day would be professional development for teachers. The 9th and 10th would also be half days for parent-teacher conferences, and then having that Friday Veterans Day off. So it creates 1 week of disruption versus in and out. But taking a look at that, you'll also see that we built in some professional development days. And so again, try to propose, and this way we can help as we are planning for next year.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the school calendar for 2022-23 as presented by the superintendent?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. All those abstaining, please wave, say something, indicate you're abstaining. All right, chairman votes aye. That's, yes.
Was John a yes or a no?
John, were you a yes?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, okay, yeah. We got a lot of echoing. Okay, so I think it's unanimous. So that school calendar has been approved. Is there anything else to come before the meeting? If not, then if there's no
Wait a minute.
objection, we will consider ourselves. Oh, Alex, go ahead.
What happened to this Shipman and Goodwin stuff?
The policies.
So, policies we are going to have, I wanted to give everybody a little bit more time. So Debbie sent you out the overview of what's happening. So we will go over that on the December 6th meeting. So it will be
Okay.
coming up. So if you've done your homework, you are already prepared for December 6th meeting.
Well, I hope I can remember it that long.
All right, if there's nothing else to come before the meeting and there is no, I'm sorry, Joe.
Can we get Ben a new remote control? Just to make it a little smoother.
All right, that's a good idea. I agree. Okay, so if there's nothing else to come before the meeting and there's no objection, I'll consider us adjourned at 9:37 by consent. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.